The humiliation. The architect's secret fortune. The anniversary that changed everything. I stood outside Romano's, the most expensive Italian restaurant in downtown Seattle, holding a small wrapped box in my trembling hands. 5 years. 5 years of marriage to Ryan Mitchell, and I had been counting down the days to our anniversary for weeks. I wore my best dress, a simple navy blue one I had bought from a department store sale. Nothing fancy, but it made me feel pretty. At least, I thought it did until I walked through those glass doors. The hostess smiled at me warmly. Reservation name? Mitchell. Ryan Mitchell. He should already be here. Her eyes scanned the reservation list, and she nodded. Ah yes, table for 4. Follow me, please. Table for 4? My heart skipped. Maybe Ryan had planned a surprise. Maybe he invited friends to celebrate with us. But when the hostess led me to the corner booth near the window, my smile froze on my face. Ryan sat there, comfortable and relaxed, laughing at something his mother Patricia said. Across from them sat his sister-in-law Ashley, wearing what looked like a dress that cost more than our monthly rent. Not a single one of them looked up as I approached. Ryan. My voice came out smaller than I intended. He glanced up, surprise flashing across his face before quickly masking it with a casual smile. Maya. Hey, I didn't expect you so early. Early? I checked my watch. You said 7 o'clock. It's 7:15. Patricia set down her wine glass with a delicate clink. Her eyes traveled slowly from my face down to my shoes and back up again, taking inventory of everything she found lacking. Oh, Maya, dear. You wore that dress? To Romano's. My cheeks burned. I thought, it's our anniversary. Ryan and I. Anniversary? Ashley's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. Oh, that's today? I completely forgot. The words hit me like ice water. She forgot. They all forgot. Ryan had the decency to look uncomfortable. Mom called this morning about having dinner. I figured we could all eat together. Make it a family thing. A family thing, I repeated, my voice hollow. On our 5th wedding anniversary. Patricia waved her hand dismissively, the diamonds on her fingers catching the candlelight. Marriage anniversaries come every year, Maya. Family time is precious. You understand, don't you? After all, you should be grateful Ryan's family accepts you at all, considering. She let the sentence hang in the air, unfinished but perfectly clear. Considering I came from nothing. Considering I had no prestigious family name. Considering I was beneath them. I stood there, clutching my small gift box, feeling the curious stares of nearby diners. This was supposed to be romantic. This was supposed to be special. Instead, I was being taught a lesson about my place in the Mitchell family hierarchy. The daughter's heartbreak. I barely tasted my food during dinner. The conversation flowed around me like I was invisible. Patricia talked about her upcoming charity gala. Ashley bragged about her husband's new promotion and their planned trip to Paris. Ryan participated eagerly, laughing at their jokes, never once reaching for my hand or acknowledging that this night should have been about us. When we finally left the restaurant, Ryan drove us home in silence. Our apartment was modest, a 2-bedroom place in a decent neighborhood. Ryan always said we needed to save money, be responsible, build toward the future. I had never questioned it because I thought we were building that future together. But lately, I had started noticing things. The way he never introduced me as his wife at work functions, just as Maya. The way he made excuses when I suggested we go out, claiming we couldn't afford it, yet somehow his mother's birthday gift was always expensive. The way he flinched when I suggested buying new furniture, but never questioned when his sister asked to borrow money. When we walked into our apartment, our daughter Sophia was still awake. She sat on the couch in her pajamas, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched in her arms. Our neighbor Mrs. Chun, who had been watching her, gathered her things quickly. She didn't eat much dinner. Mrs. Chun whispered to me at the door. Said her stomach hurt. I think maybe she's coming down with something. After Mrs. Chun left, I sat down next to Sophia, my beautiful 8-year-old daughter with her father's brown eyes and my dark hair. She looked up at me, and I saw tears gathering in the corners of her eyes. Mommy, do we have enough money? The question startled me. Of course, sweetheart. Why would you ask that? Sophia's lower lip trembled. The kids at school. They say I'm the poor one. They say Grandma Patricia told their parents that you trapped Daddy into marrying you because you wanted his money. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. I pulled Sophia into my arms, holding her tight as she started to cry softly against my shoulder. Emma's mom said you work at a boring office job, and that's why we live in a small apartment. Sophia continued through her tears. She said real families live in big houses with pools. Am I being bullied because we're poor, Mommy? I closed my eyes, fighting back my own tears. Patricia had been spreading poison about me to her social circle, and now it had reached the children. My daughter was being made to feel ashamed of her own mother. Sophia, baby, listen to me. I pulled back to look into her eyes. We are not poor. We have everything we need. And anyone who judges people by how big their house is or how expensive their clothes are, those people don't understand what really matters. But even as I said the words, I wondered if I was lying to her. Lying to both of us. Because the truth was, I had been accepting this treatment for 5 years. I had been making myself smaller and smaller, trying to fit into Ryan's family's expectations, hoping that eventually they would see my worth. The final breaking point. The next day was Saturday. Ryan had gone to help his mother with some repairs at her house, leaving me alone with Sophia. I was folding laundry when my phone rang. Patricia's name flashed on the screen. Maya. Her voice was cold, formal. We need to discuss Sophia's behavior. Her behavior? What are you talking about? Apparently, she was very rude to Ashley's daughter at school yesterday. Ashley is quite upset. Children learn their manners from their parents, Maya. Perhaps if you spent less time working and more time teaching Sophia proper respect for her family. Stop. The word came out sharper than I intended. Sophia has been nothing but respectful. If there was an incident at school, maybe it's because your daughter-in-law has been telling lies about me to the other parents. Patricia's laugh was like breaking glass. Lies? Dear, I've only been honest about your circumstances. About how you met my son while he was volunteering at that homeless shelter fundraiser. How quickly you got pregnant. How young Ryan gave up his dreams to support a family he wasn't ready for. We didn't. But she wasn't listening. You need to understand your place in this family, Maya. Ryan is my son. He comes from a good family with connections and expectations. You are. Well, you're what he chose to settle for. The least you can do is be grateful and stop causing problems. The line went dead. I stood in my living room, phone in hand, shaking with rage and hurt. Be grateful. Know my place. Stop causing problems. For 5 years, I had swallowed my pride. I had endured the comments, the looks, the casual cruelty. I had let them believe I was lucky to be part of their family. I had hidden who I really was because I thought love mattered more than money or status or pride. But they had crossed a line. They had hurt my daughter. I walked to my bedroom and opened the bottom drawer of my nightstand. Hidden beneath old scarves and forgotten jewelry was a locked metal box. My hands shook as I entered the combination, a date that meant everything to me. June 14th, the day I had said goodbye to my old life. Inside the box were photographs. Me at architectural awards ceremonies, wearing gowns that cost more than this entire apartment. Me cutting ribbons at building openings. Me on magazine covers with headlines like Sterling Architecture's Visionary and the genius behind Seattle's skyline. And at the bottom of the box, a single photograph. My first wedding. I was 26 years old, radiant in vintage lace, standing next to James Sterling. He was brilliant, kind, and wealthy beyond imagination. We had built Sterling Architecture Group together, his business sense, my design genius. We were going to change the world. Then the plane crash. One moment I had everything. The next, I was a widow at 30, drowning in grief so deep I thought I would never surface. I had disappeared from public life, changed my appearance, dyed my hair darker, stopped wearing the designer clothes. I moved to a modest neighborhood and took a quiet job at a small firm, using a different last name. I wanted to feel normal. I wanted to remember what it was like when success wasn't measured in dollars. That's when I met Ryan. Sweet, genuine Ryan who worked as an accountant and volunteered on weekends. Who asked me out for coffee instead of expensive dinners. Who seemed to love me for me, not for what I could provide. I had been so wrong. I reached for my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 6 years. Victoria? My voice was steady now, strengthened by purpose. It's Maya Sterling. I need you to prepare the documents. All of them. My lawyer's voice came through, professional but surprised. Are you certain, Maya? Once we do this, there's no going back. I looked at the photos spread across my bed. Then I walked to Sophia's room, where my daughter was doing homework, trying so hard to be good enough for people who would never see her value. I'm certain, I said quietly. It's time they learned who they've really been dealing with. I'll have everything ready by Monday morning. Maya, are you okay? I smiled for the first time in days. I will be, Victoria. For the first time in 6 years, I will be. That night, I held Sophia close as she fell asleep. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, Patricia Mitchell and her precious family would discover that the poor, grateful woman they had been humiliating wasn't poor at all. Tomorrow, they would meet Maya Sterling, the architect worth $200 million, the widow who owned half of Seattle's skyline, the woman who had been choosing to live simply, but who could choose differently at any moment. Tomorrow, the real game would begin. The revelation. The truth emerges. The morning after. Monday morning arrived with clear blue skies, as if the universe itself was preparing for what was about to unfold. I woke up at 6, my mind sharp and focused in a way it hadn't been for years. While Ryan snored softly beside me, I slipped out of bed and stood before my closet. For 5 years, I had dressed to blend in. Discount store dresses. Sensible shoes. Nothing that would make anyone look twice. But tucked away in the back, wrapped in garment bags I hadn't touched since moving to this apartment, hung the clothes from my previous life. I pulled out a tailored black Armani suit. The fabric felt like liquid silk under my fingers. I paired it with Louboutin heels and the Cartier watch James had given me for our 2nd anniversary. As I dressed, I watched myself transform in the mirror. The simple, apologetic Maya faded away. In her place stood someone I had almost forgotten. Confident, powerful, unshakable. I applied makeup with the precision I had learned from professional stylists. Not too much, just enough to highlight my features and remind anyone looking that I knew exactly who I was. My hair, which I usually wore in a simple ponytail, I styled into a sleek professional bun. When I emerged from the bathroom, Ryan was awake, rubbing his eyes. He did a double take when he saw me. Maya? What are you? Why are you dressed like that? Do you have a job interview or something? Something like that, I said calmly, fastening pearl earrings. I have an important meeting this morning. He frowned, confused. You didn't mention any meeting. And those clothes, where did you even get those? They look expensive. They are expensive, Ryan. Very expensive. I met his eyes in the mirror. Your mother is hosting her book club brunch this morning, correct? At her house. Yeah, why? I think I'll stop by. It's time I properly introduced myself to her friends. Ryan sat up, alarm crossing his face. Maya, you can't just show up at Mom's book club. It's invitation only. She'll be embarrassed if you. Embarrassed. I turned to face him. Do you know what's embarrassing, Ryan? Having your 8-year-old daughter come home crying because her grandmother told everyone her mother is a gold digger. That's embarrassing. His face flushed. Mom didn't mean it like that. She's just protective of me. She's cruel. There's a difference. I picked up my purse, an Hermes Birkin bag that had been gathering dust in my closet. I'll be back this afternoon. We need to have a serious conversation. About what? I paused at the bedroom door. About whether you married me, or whether you married your mother's opinion of me. The arrival. Patricia Mitchell lived in a sprawling estate in the suburbs, complete with manicured gardens and a circular driveway. I had been here countless times before, always parking my modest sedan around the back like I was ashamed of it. Today was different. Victoria had arranged everything perfectly. 3 black Mercedes pulled up to Patricia's front entrance at exactly 10 o'clock. I rode in the middle car, with Victoria in the first and my business manager, Marcus, in the third. Each vehicle was immaculate, expensive, and impossible to ignore. The book club ladies were already arriving when we pulled up. I recognized most of them, wealthy women who had made it their hobby to judge anyone they deemed beneath them. They stopped mid-conversation, staring at the cars with undisguised curiosity. Patricia appeared at her front door, wearing a designer pantsuit and her signature string of pearls. Her smile was gracious for her guests, but when she saw me stepping out of the Mercedes, her expression faltered. I walked toward her, my heels clicking against the stone pathway. Victoria and Marcus flanked me, both carrying leather briefcases and wearing the kind of professional demeanor that commanded respect. Maya. Patricia's voice was uncertain, a crack in her usual confidence. What are you doing here? And who are these people? Victoria extended her hand. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Victoria Chun, senior partner at Chun & Associates. I represent Mrs. Sterling. Mrs. Sterling? Patricia's eyes darted between us, confusion mounting. That would be me, I said smoothly. Though I suppose I've been going by Maya Mitchell for the past 5 years. It's time we corrected that. The truth unveiled. Patricia's book club ladies were gathering on the front lawn now, drawn by the spectacle. Perfect. I wanted witnesses for this moment. Perhaps we should go inside, Patricia suggested, her voice tight with forced politeness. This isn't the appropriate venue for. Actually, this is the perfect venue, I interrupted. You've spent 5 years telling these women lies about me. They deserve to hear the truth. Ashley had emerged from the house now, her phone already out, probably texting Ryan frantically. Good. I wanted him here too. Marcus opened his briefcase and pulled out the first document. Mrs. Mitchell, are you familiar with Sterling Architecture Group? Patricia's face went pale. Of course. Everyone in Seattle knows Sterling. They designed half the downtown skyline. The founder died years ago in a plane crash. She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening as the pieces began falling into place. James Sterling was my husband, I said clearly, making sure every woman present could hear me. When he died 6 years ago, I inherited full ownership of Sterling Architecture Group, along with all associated assets and properties. One of the book club ladies gasped. Another pulled out her phone, clearly Googling my name. The whispers started immediately. Victoria continued, professional and precise. Mrs. Sterling, Maya, is the sole owner of Sterling Architecture Group, currently valued at $200 million. She also owns 15 commercial properties in downtown Seattle, a portfolio of investments managed by Goldman Sachs, and has a personal net worth that places her in the top 1% of Seattle residents. I watched Patricia's face cycle through emotions, shock, disbelief, horror, and finally, a desperate attempt to regain control of the narrative. This is ridiculous, she said, her voice shaking. If you had all this money, why would you live in that tiny apartment? Why would you work at some no-name architecture firm? This has to be some kind of elaborate joke. It's not a joke, Marcus said, pulling out more documents. Here are the property deeds. Here are the tax returns. Here is Mrs. Sterling's name on the board of directors for Sterling Architecture Group. Everything is legitimate and verified. I stepped closer to Patricia, close enough that only she could see the steel in my eyes. I lived simply because I wanted to know if your son could love me for who I was, not what I had. I wanted to build a life based on genuine connection, not financial convenience. Then why reveal it now? Ashley demanded, finding her voice. She looked furious, probably realizing that all her bragging about her lifestyle meant nothing compared to what I actually possessed. Because you hurt my daughter, I said simply. You poisoned her mind. You made her feel ashamed of her own mother. I could tolerate your cruelty toward me, but the moment you involved Sophia, you crossed a line. A sleek car pulled into the driveway, Ryan's Honda, looking painfully out of place among the Mercedes. He practically fell out of the car, his face a mixture of confusion and panic. Ashley must have called him. Mom, what's going on? He looked at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in months. Maya, what is all this? The confrontation. I turned to face my husband, the man I had fallen in love with when I was vulnerable and grieving. The man who had seemed so different from the wealthy circles I had left behind. The man who, I now realized, had his own form of materialism, just directed by his mother's approval instead of his own desires. Ryan, when we met, I told you I worked in architecture. That was true. What I didn't tell you was that I owned one of the largest architecture firms in Seattle. I kept my voice calm, factual. I didn't lie. I just didn't offer information you never asked for. You've been lying to me for 5 years. His voice cracked with emotion, anger, betrayal, confusion all mixed together. No, I corrected. I've been living honestly, living modestly, living the life I chose. You're the one who's been lying, Ryan. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. With a few taps, I brought up a transaction history. See this transfer? $5,000, sent to your mother last Christmas. And this one? $10,000 for Ashley's husband's business investment in March. This one? $15,000 for your mother's emergency roof repair that turned out to be a kitchen renovation. Ryan's face went from confused to pale. How did you? Because this money came from the Sterling Trust Fund, which I established to quietly support this family while you complained we couldn't afford date nights. I let that sink in. Every family vacation your mother bragged about, I paid for it. The private school tuition for Sophia that your mother claimed to help with? All me. The loans she's been accepting from generous friends? Those were me too. Patricia looked like she might faint. The book club ladies were recording now, phones out, capturing every moment of her humiliation. Why? Ryan's voice was barely a whisper. Why would you do all that? Because I loved you, I said, and my voice finally showed emotion. Because when I met you, you seemed genuine. You seemed to care about people, not things. You volunteered at homeless shelters. You talked about making a difference. You made me laugh for the first time since James died. I thought I had found someone who valued what really mattered. I did. No, Ryan. You changed. Maybe it was gradual, or maybe I just didn't want to see it. But over the past 5 years, you became more and more like your mother. You started caring about appearances. You stopped defending me when your family made cruel comments. You made our daughter ashamed of her own home. Victoria stepped forward, handing me another document. These are divorce papers, Ryan. I had them prepared this morning. The gasps from the book club ladies were audible now. Patricia found her voice, shrill and desperate. You can't do this. Ryan, she's trying to take everything from you. This is exactly what I warned you about. She's showing her true colors now. I turned to Patricia with a cold smile. Actually, Mrs. Mitchell, I'm not taking anything from Ryan. According to these prenuptial agreements, I held up another document, which were signed when we married. Ryan has no claim to any assets I owned before our marriage. That includes Sterling Architecture Group and all associated holdings. We didn't sign a prenup, Ryan said, confused. Actually, we did. You just didn't realize what you were signing. Remember that document my roommate's lawyer friend asked you to sign? The one about keeping our finances separate for tax purposes? That was a prenuptial agreement, Ryan. Professionally drafted and legally binding. His face crumbled. You planned this? From the beginning? No, I said honestly. I hoped I'd never need it. I hoped you would be the man I fell in love with. I hoped your family would eventually accept me. I was wrong on both counts. The choice. Ashley was scrolling frantically through her phone now, pulling up old articles about Maya Sterling. Her face showed the exact moment she realized what this meant. Oh my God, she breathed. You designed the Harrison Tower and the Waterfront Medical Center. Your firm won the International Architecture Prize 3 years in a row. You're famous. I was famous, I corrected. Now I'm just a woman who's tired of being treated like she doesn't matter. Marcus cleared his throat. Mrs. Sterling, we should discuss the other documents. Yes, I agreed. I looked at Patricia directly. These are the loan agreements for every dollar I've given your family over the past 5 years. I'm calling them all in. You have 90 days to repay $73,000 with the standard interest rate of 8%. Patricia's hand flew to her chest. I don't have that kind of money. Then I suggest you start selling things. Maybe that vacation home you bought last year? The one you told everyone was a gift from your late husband's life insurance. I tilted my head. That was my money too, by the way. Ryan stepped toward me, his hand outstretched. Maya, please. Let's talk about this privately. Let's not do this here, in front of everyone. Why not? I asked. Your mother has been discussing my supposed shortcomings in front of everyone for 5 years. Turnabout is fair play. I'm sorry, he said, and tears were forming in his eyes. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize what I was doing. I didn't realize how much they were hurting you. That's the problem, Ryan. You should have realized. You should have noticed when your daughter came home crying. You should have defended me when your mother called me a gold digger. I paused. But you didn't. Because deep down, maybe you believed it too. That's not true. Then prove it, I said quietly. I'm giving you a choice, Ryan. Right here, right now. You can sign these divorce papers, and we'll arrange joint custody of Sophia. I'll make sure you're taken care of financially. I'm not cruel like your family. Or what? Or you can come with me and Sophia. We'll move into my real home, the penthouse downtown that I've been keeping empty for 6 years. But if you choose that, you also choose to set boundaries with your family. Real boundaries. They apologize to me and to Sophia, publicly and sincerely, or they don't see either of us again. No more tolerating disrespect. No more choosing their approval over our marriage. Patricia made a strangled sound. You can't make him choose between his wife and his mother. I'm not making him choose, I said calmly. I'm just refusing to accept a situation where I'm treated as less than. Ryan has to decide what kind of man he wants to be. Ryan stood there, frozen, looking between me and his mother. The book club ladies were silent now, watching this drama unfold like it was their own personal reality show. I need time, Ryan finally said. You have 24 hours, I replied. Victoria will be in touch with your decision. If I don't hear from you by this time tomorrow, I'll assume you've chosen to sign the divorce papers. I turned to leave, but Patricia's voice stopped me. Wait, you can't humiliate me like this in front of my friends. I looked back at her, this woman who had made my life miserable for 5 years, and I felt nothing but pity. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm not humiliating you. I'm simply showing everyone who you really are. You've spent years judging people by their bank accounts, and now everyone knows that the woman you treated worst had more money than all of you combined. That's not humiliation. That's karma. As I walked back to the Mercedes, I heard the whispers starting behind me. The book club ladies would spread this story throughout Seattle's social circles within hours. Patricia's reputation was ruined. Ashley would never be able to brag about her lifestyle again without people remembering this moment. But more importantly, I had shown my daughter that she never had to accept being treated as less than. That she came from strength and dignity, not poverty and desperation. Victoria smiled at me as I slid into the car. That was masterfully done, Maya. It was necessary, I replied, pulling out my phone to check on Sophia. I had arranged for her to stay with James's sister, the one family member from my previous life who had understood my need for solitude and had respected my privacy. As we drove away, I didn't look back at Patricia's house. That chapter was closing. Tomorrow, Ryan would make his choice. And whatever he decided, I would be fine. Because I had finally remembered something I'd forgotten during 5 years of trying to be someone else. Maya Sterling didn't need anyone's approval to know her worth. She just needed her daughter to know it too. The reckoning. New beginnings. The 24-hour countdown. I spent that evening in my real home for the first time in 6 years. The penthouse overlooked Elliott Bay, with floor-to-ceiling windows that captured the entire Seattle skyline. A skyline I had helped build. Sophia stood at the window, her eyes wide with wonder. Mommy, is this really our home? It was, I said, kneeling beside her. And it can be again, if you want it to be. She turned to look at me, her small face serious beyond her years. Will Daddy come live here too? I don't know, sweetheart. That's his choice to make. Grandma Patricia won't like it if he chooses us. The wisdom in those words broke my heart. 8 years old, and she already understood the dynamics at play. Baby, your daddy needs to learn something important. He needs to learn that when you love someone, you protect them. You stand up for them. You don't let other people hurt them. Sophia was quiet for a moment, then asked, Did you protect me today, Mommy? Yes, I did. Good, she said simply, then turned back to the window. I like this house better anyway. Can I have the room with the stars on the ceiling? I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. That was always meant to be your room. That night, after Sophia fell asleep in her new bedroom, the one I had decorated years ago when I still hoped to have children with James, I stood on the balcony and watched the city lights reflect off the water. My phone had been buzzing constantly. Text messages from Ryan, ranging from angry to pleading to confused. Calls from Patricia that I ignored. Even a message from Ashley trying to be conciliatory now that she understood who she had been dealing with. But the message that mattered most came at 11 o'clock that night. Victoria's name flashed on my screen. Maya, you need to see this. Her voice was urgent. Check Channel 7 News. I turned on the television, and there it was. The story had already gone viral. Mystery architect revealed. Maya Sterling returns to public life. The news anchor was showing footage from Patricia's lawn, captured by the book club ladies on their phones. Video of me stepping out of the Mercedes. Audio of me revealing my identity. Close-ups of Patricia's shocked face. But what caught my attention was the second part of the segment. They had dug up old footage of me and James at award ceremonies, interviews where we discussed our architectural philosophy, clips from the day we had won the International Architecture Prize. The contrast was startling. The confident, radiant woman in those old videos looked so different from the quiet, apologetic person I had become. But today, outside Patricia's house, I had looked like my old self again. The question everyone is asking, the news anchor said, is why did Maya Sterling disappear from public life? And why is she coming back now? My phone rang. Victoria again. You're going to get calls from every media outlet in Seattle, she warned. Possibly national news too. This story has everything: hidden identity, family drama, a dramatic reveal. You need to decide how you want to handle this. I'll make a statement tomorrow, I said. But first, I need to know what Ryan decides. Patricia's desperate move. The next morning, Ryan didn't call. He didn't text. But at 9 o'clock, there was a knock on my penthouse door. When I opened it, I found not Ryan, but Patricia. She looked terrible. Her hair wasn't perfectly styled for the first time since I'd known her. Her makeup was smudged like she'd been crying. The designer clothes were still there, but they hung on her differently, like she had shrunk overnight. May I come in? Her voice was small, nothing like her usual commanding tone. I stepped aside, letting her enter. She walked into the living room and stopped, staring at the space. The original artwork on the walls. The custom furniture. The grand piano by the window. This was old money, real wealth, not the nouveau riche ostentation she had always valued. You really do own all of this, she said quietly. I really do. She turned to face me, and I saw something in her eyes I had never seen before: fear. I've been getting calls all morning. From friends, from the country club, from everyone. They all saw the videos. They all know what I said about you, how I treated you. Yes, I said simply. They do. My reputation is destroyed, she continued, her voice breaking. 20 years of building social connections, and it's all gone in one day. People are already avoiding my calls. The charity board asked me to step down. I could have felt satisfaction at her downfall. Instead, I just felt tired. Patricia, did you really think there would be no consequences? You spent 5 years being cruel to me. You hurt my daughter. What did you expect? I didn't know, she burst out. If I had known who you were, I never would have. That's exactly the problem, I interrupted. You only treat people well if they can offer you something. If they have money or status or connections. You treated me badly because you thought I was nobody. That says everything about who you are. She sank onto the couch, her hands shaking. I know that now. I've spent all night thinking about it, and you're right. I'm a terrible person. You're not terrible, I said, surprising myself. You're just so focused on appearances that you forgot to look at what's real. You raised a good son, Patricia. Ryan was genuinely kind when I met him. But you spent 5 years trying to turn him against me because I didn't fit your image of what his wife should be. Where is Ryan? She asked suddenly. I've been calling him all morning. He won't answer. I don't know, I admitted. He has until this afternoon to make his decision. Patricia stood up, wringing her hands. Please, don't take my son away from me. I know I was wrong. I know I was horrible to you. But he's all I have. His father died 10 years ago, and Ryan is everything to me. For the first time, I saw Patricia as something other than my tormentor. I saw a widow just like me. A woman who had lost her husband and clung too tightly to her son, who had confused controlling his life with protecting him. I'm not taking Ryan away from you, I said gently. But I won't tolerate disrespect anymore. If Ryan chooses to stay with me, you'll need to change how you treat both of us. Can you do that? She nodded frantically. Yes. Anything. I'll apologize publicly. I'll tell everyone I was wrong about you. I don't need public apologies, Patricia. I need you to treat me like family. Like someone who matters. And most importantly, I need you to love Sophia without any conditions or criticism. Tears were streaming down her face now. I do love her. She's my granddaughter. Then show it, I said firmly. No more comparing her to other children. No more comments about her clothes or her school or anything else. She needs to know she's loved for who she is, not who you think she should be. Ryan's choice. Patricia left an hour later, still crying but looking slightly less desperate. She promised to wait for Ryan's decision, to support whatever he chose. I wasn't sure if I believed her transformation was real or just self-preservation, but time would tell. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, with only hours left before my deadline, Ryan finally appeared at my door. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept. His clothes were wrinkled, and he had that stubble he only got when he was too stressed to remember to shave. But his eyes were clear, determined. Can we talk? He asked. I led him to the living room. We sat across from each other, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, Ryan broke the silence. I spent the whole night driving around the city, he said. looking at the buildings. I never really paid attention before, but so many of them have your name on them. Sterling architecture. You built all of this.